So, Michael, before we get into Solo, a Star Wars story, which I'm sure everybody's on the edge of the seats to hear us talk about, I want to go through some predictions that you and I have made in the last week, and maybe a bit longer than that, concerning our political situation in our wonderful country that we live in. And
country? More like country, am I right?
And Star Wars as well, which obviously...
Star Wars, more like...
Go on.
I didn't have one for that. I mean, I did, but it would be misogynistic.
Oh,
so
right, okay, good. So,
unlike cunt.
So yeah, which obviously Rise of Skywalker is coming out this week while we are recording this. So yeah, but firstly, the prediction on the UK election. We both got it wrong, but you got it way, way worse than me. You jinxed it, Michael. You fucking jinxed it by talking about, I wonder how the Greens are gonna be involved in this fucking coalition. And you're a fucking moron, honestly.
I am just endlessly optimistic about
you really are.
Politics. I made a video on my other channel called, I think it's the name of the video is Trump will be a one-term president. And it's just
Stop
sort of
fucking
explaining
jinxing things, honestly.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, I've also got another video on there called There Won't Be a Nuclear Armageddon in the Next 5 Years, so I should probably just stop being so optimistic.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, so, I mean, I did call a Conservative majority, but obviously I got my prediction off by about 30 seats. So, there's that. We were wrong on that, but I'll tell you what we were right on, Michael. We were right on Star Wars. We both said, after The Last Jedi, it's going to have to be a miracle to make Episode 9 good. Because even, that's the thing, there are some Last Jedi defenders out there still, which is incredible to me, but they still exist. But something they never, I've seen them not grapple with at all is, well, how did The Last Jedi set up Episode 9? And it didn't set it up at all. Just left it with nowhere to go. And from what the sense I've got from reading the leaks that have coming out of The Rise of Skywalker, it definitely seems like J.J. Abrams was just throwing a load of shit at the wall and seeing what stuck. And that is why we said this movie is probably not going to be very good. It's going to be a miracle if it is good. And 58% on Rotten Tomatoes, I think I saw. When it came out, it might have changed since then. And obviously...
Yeah, I think it's 58, yeah. That's what I saw.
Yeah, so obviously... We were right on that regard. We were right, and it further vindicates, I think, how bad The Rise of Skywalker is. Further vindicates how bad The Last Jedi was. Even though people were saying, well, they're two completely different movies, so it proves The Last Jedi was good. No. So yeah, that's my take.
Yeah. No, yeah, well, obviously we were right about saying it was bad. One thing we were wrong about is that I think we both thought that the critics would continue to be shills. And would basically, say, well, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, so I'll give it a 90. That seems fair. That's what we're kind of both thinking. Because, that's the thing. Obviously, there was The Last Jedi where a lot of critics seem to genuinely like it. But then even things like, Force Awakens, where the position just seemed to be, well, it was a competent beginning for the trilogy. That got 90%. So, I think we both thought that. But yeah, 50. I mean, that's the thing. It must be really bad. I've seen the fun
really bad.
Yeah, I've seen people, obviously you mentioned the fact that there are people who are like, The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker are completely different films, so they've got nothing to do with each other. And I think that's the thing that I've seen somebody say The Rise of Skywalker has loads of fan service. So, because I sent you that thing, didn't I, that said, if you hated Episode 8, you'll like Episode 9. I don't see how that could possibly be true, because there's no way, if you hated Episode 8, then how on earth? Because that's the thing, the only chance that Disney had, and this is why I think it was wrong for them to do the course correction they essentially tried to do, because the only hope they had is that people who have liked this series so far, people who have liked The Force Awakens and people who have liked The Last Jedi, that they would get something that they would find interesting. And I guess what you would have to do with that is at least, for example, continue to not have Rey's parents be anybody, continue to not have some kind of reveal with Snoke. Basically everything that people liked about The Last Jedi, they should have kept that. Because the only people who were ever going to like this film were people who liked The Last Jedi. Because that's the thing, we were both saying it would be a miracle if this film was good. And that's because we broadly disliked the previous two films. So obviously, it would have been very difficult for them to make a good final film. So their only hope was to try and appease the people who have liked the series so far. So while I'm kind of happy that it did badly, because it's they don't, I tweeted about this, the people who liked those first two films, they don't deserve to be happy because they've got a bad taste in films. But that should have been what Disney did. But instead they, tried to please everyone, and now it's shit.
Yeah, and I think ultimately my issue that I have with The Last Jedi and people who defend The Last Jedi is they don't see the film as part of the trilogy. They're just like it's a standalone movie. And
yeah.
we're looking at the whole trilogy now. And again, with this, it's just an absolute shit end to, I guess, what's it called now? The Skywalker Saga. 9 episodes, all in the same universe, all with characters in each of them, who are in all the other movies. I think if an episode 10 comes out, it's going to be completely new characters. I think that's the difference. But basically, The Last Jedi really fucked it up. And I think, I'll say it again, people might be saying, well, look at how shit The Rise of Skywalker is. That proves The Last Jedi is right. Again, no, it doesn't, because the criticism of The Last Jedi was it shouldn't have been a movie in the middle of a trilogy, and therefore the next one afterwards is probably going to be bad. And look at that. It is very bad. So, I guess once once Rise of Skywalker comes out, we'll discuss it more. We'll go through it.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, Michael, this Rise of Skywalker might not even gross $1 billion.
That's the thing. It will be genuinely interesting to see how the terrible reception will actually affect returns.
Yes, we will see that. But anyway, let's get on to another movie that flopped. Solo: A Star Wars Story. There you go.
Yeah, so it's called Solo: A Star Wars Story because there was only one person in the theatre watching it. Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the film review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke. And this week we are celebrating the release of Star Wars Episode 9 by looking at Star Wars Episode 8.5, A Solo Story.
Not 8.5. If you talk about when it came out.
Yeah, I'm talking about when it came out, but I guess if it's when, apart from that, I guess it would be three and 1/3, I guess, because then obviously
3.3,
Rogue One. Yeah, Rogue One is 3 2/3, and then obviously anyway. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Solo: A Star Wars Story?
Sure thing, Michael. So, Solo: A Star Wars Story, or simply Solo, is a 2018 American space western film based around the Star Wars character Han Solo. Oh wow! Also featuring his original trilogy co-protagonists Chewbacca and Lando Calrissian. It was directed by Ron Howard, kind of. 70% of the film was directed by Ron Howard, produced by the wonderful Kathleen Kennedy, written by Jonathan and Lawrence Kasdan, based on the characters by George Lucas, obviously. And it stars Alden... how do I say this guy's name right? This guy's last name? Ehrenreich?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, Alden Ehrenreich.
Ehrenreich, okay. Woody Harrelson, Emilia Clarke.
More like Alden Ehrenreich.
Well, he's not blonde, is he?
And he's not a Nazi either. But if he was, that would be something.
No, Aryan doesn't have to, mean Nazi. Because it was a race
it could mean it could be Iranian.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Emilia Clarke, Donald Glover, Thandie Newton, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Jonas Sumato. I really got that name wrong, I apologise. And Paul Bettany, that's much easier to say. It was released on May the 25th, 2018 in the United States. And Michael, can you tell me the budget for Solo: A Star Wars Story?
120 million.
No. Here's the thing, Michael. It might have been that original. No, actually, it was probably more original.
Oh, so it got inflated, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, 195 million. 220 million.
Keep going high, Michael. It's
3 billion.
275 to $300 million, which means that means it was almost the most expensive movie of all time. Because I believe Avengers Endgame was like 350 or something. I don't know. I have to look that up again, but this might be like the second most expensive movie of all time, which is quite incredible. How much everyone fucked it up. Considering the box office, Michael, and how much did this make at the box office?
So I think it was something like it made just about. So obviously you typically spend double for things. So what was it? It was 300 and something? No, I've already forgotten what you just said the budget was. It was 200 and something, wasn't it? So
275 to 300.
275, that was it, yeah. So I'm going to guess that probably it made just double 275, which is 550. It made 550 million. No, it made slightly more. No, it made 550 million. Why not?
Oh, man.
I think it made slightly more than that, didn't it?
No.
It made slightly less.
Oh, Michael. Wow.
Oh, no.
Here's the thing. We were talking before in the cold open and also before this guess about how much this movie had flopped.
Yeah, I knew it had flopped, but I thought it kind of just flopped. So I was thinking like, double plus. Okay, yeah, so maybe I was off. Yeah, I always thought it was like one of those films where like it just didn't quite make its money back.
I mean, I assume the marketing costs were well over $100 million for this movie.
Yeah,
so that means it definitely lost money because the box office was $393 million. So only 92 million higher than its budget for a Star Wars movie featuring Han Solo. My God. Like, this must have absolutely shocked Disney. And it did, I guess, because they cancelled a lot of projects after this came out. And they were right to do so, because if they're just going to... Well, we'll get into how we feel about the movie, I guess. But yeah, if they are going to keep producing movies like these, eventually audiences will stop going to see them. And also, this is what is amazing to me. This movie came out just 4 months after The Last Jedi. Which is weird because, like, Star Wars movies, they used to be every 3 years, even up until like 2002 to 2005. Revenge of the Sith, Attack of the Clones, only a gap of 3 years. Quite a big gap of 3 years compared to nowadays. This was just like 4 months, and yes, it wasn't a proper Star Wars episode, but still only 4 months. And the reason why that was, I don't know if you remember, but the original Last Jedi was meant to come out in it would have been 2017. The middle of 2017, so it would have had to come out.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, 18 months after The Force Awakens instead of the 2 years it eventually became. So that meant Han Solo was meant to come out at Christmas, and it couldn't because obviously Last Jedi came out at Christmas, so they bumped it back another 4 months. So what's crazy in all of this is Disney was originally just going to release...
Pump these out. They were going to marvel.
They were really going to release 4 Star Wars movies in 2 years. Because obviously Force Awakens, Rogue One, Last Jedi, Han Solo, 4 Star... Like, they were really trying to milk this for all it's worth, and they thankfully slowed down on it.
Well, I'll tell you what, they found out how much it was worth.
Yes, definitely.
Not much.
So anyway, Michael, there's enough of the background, and we'll get into the future of Star Wars under Disney at the end of this when we discuss The Rise of Skywalker in more detail, and this movie will be included in that discussion. But anyway, Michael, did you like Solo, A Star Wars Story?
Well, look, I was just going to say, by the way, when you when talking about the fact that obviously they pretty much, because it's kind of weird, this anthology thing. I tell you what it reminded me of. The X-Men Origins series. In that, like, the X-Men Origins series, it was like it was very clearly set up like that they wanted to do lots of them, and then the first one flopped, and then they just stopped. In this case, the first one didn't flop, but it kind of had like this idea of like Star Wars anthologies, and you're like, oh, think of all the stories that can be told in this universe. Think of like, you can just do, you don't have to be constrained by the kind of limitations of the saga. You can tell a kind of slightly different, slightly unique story that might not traditionally fit into a typical, 3-act trilogy structure. Everyone's really excited. And like think, oh yeah, they can release loads of these. These are going to be the most versatile, interesting Star Wars films. And now I think they've kind of they've just stopped. They're just like, nope, never mind these anthology films.
I mean, we have to also look at Disney Plus, and maybe Disney people thinking, let's not release these movies, let's put them on Disney Plus. That'll help us. Obviously, The Mandalorian, which has come out in a few weeks ago. We don't have Disney Plus in the UK, but it's come out in America. That's an example of that, where we're not going to make a movie out of it. Let's just release it on Disney Plus so people get Disney Plus. So it works that way.
Yeah,
They don't have to take...
Well, that's the thing. I mean, because obviously apparently The Mandalorian's good, so I guess they're just banking on like, people will like these TV shows. And maybe that's it. Maybe Star Wars should just be TV shows from now on. But yeah, obviously... that
would be good, actually. I would like that, because there's no need to have a bunch of movies out there, because there are some... you mentioned before, these stories can be versatile, they can be really interesting, and I still think they can be. They really can. And that's why, these movies initially weren't like, oh god, a Han Solo Star Wars movie. It was like, oh, there's going to be a Han Solo Star Wars movie. That might be interesting. He's an interesting character, quite compelling and all. So I think, if they put more stuff on Disney Plus, I think that's a good move, because Mandalorian's well received. I'm thinking certainly an Obi-Wan Kenobi standalone film, which would be better, or a TV series. I'd say definitely the TV series, just because you can go into more depth. And if you don't need to make it a movie, then don't. So that's my take on that.
Yeah. No, I agree. Basically, just they need to be. I mean, that's what they really should have done, is just be like, hey, if it's a really good story we really want to tell, we really want to be like to go down in history as a classic, we'll make it a movie. That should be their logic.
Yeah.
That clearly has not. Anyway, so I did not like Solo. I mean, I mentioned to you before that I was going to run a bit late, and I had to take, and I do have to do this sometimes when I watch certain films, boredom breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes when I'm watching a film, I'm watching, I just think, Nope. Like sometimes it'll be like I pause it to go like because someone calls me or I need to go to the toilet or something, and I'll pause it and I'll literally just forget to restart it. But other times I'll literally just be like I'm so bored, and the minute like the scene's over, I'll be like, okay, that's a good pausing point. Time to do something fun, like just watch a YouTube video or something, just to kind of get me more excited. Now I return back to it. So yeah, I did not like this film. Did you like this film, Luke?
I mean,
actually, Michael, I really liked it.
Yeah, I didn't.
You didn't hate it that much.
So here's the thing: watching it, I didn't hate it. But then after you finish watching it and just sit back and think, what the fuck have I just watched? Then you start to, the hate starts to come through. Because you realise...
Let the hate flow through
The hate flows through me because you realise, what was the point in all of that? And that's the sense I got from watching the end of this movie, which I don't think I've really had watching another movie. Like, just what's the point? But I had it with this. So the actual movie itself, no, I didn't hate it. But because of my feelings at the end, then I could maybe say slightly hated it. But anyway, Michael, we'll get into that. But first, the nitpicks. How many do you have?
Well, actually, I need to check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I thought I deleted more than that. I got 8.
I've got
one of them's just a question, actually. But
I've got 1.
Really? Okay. Well, let's hear your 1.
Okay, so this didn't have to be a nitpick because they could have just explained it, but they didn't. So how does Han know how to speak Wookiee?
Oh yeah, that's a fair one.
Yeah, it's never explained afterwards, and speaking Wookiee doesn't seem to be something that's common. Han is the only one that can understand Chewbacca, so it would just be nice to know maybe why he can speak this very obscure language from a guy who apparently, from what we can tell, has never been to Kashyyyk, which is the Wookiee home planet. So yeah.
Nerd.
Well, they actually mentioned that in the movie, Michael, so I was just paying attention as well. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
I didn't need to go.
Well, I don't pay attention to Star Wars because I'm not a nerd.
I didn't need to go on Wikipedia for that one, did I? No.
Yes.
So, Michael, what are your fucking 8 nitpicks?
All right. Well, the first one. Okay, so this one actually it really annoyed me. But you know how like with Rogue One, the big thing was they were like, and with the kind of thing you thought would be a defining part of these anthology series was that they didn't do the opening crawl. As it was famously said, they broke new ground. And that's like the thing that you would come to say, okay, yeah, so it's an anthology series, they don't do the opening crawl. Because most stories don't have opening crawls. They tell you information through, characters actually do it. Yeah, through storytelling. So obviously you say, okay, if it's a proper, episode XIV or whatever, it's going to have an opening crawl. If it's anthology, it's not going to have an opening crawl. And they've basically just abandoned it, but they abandoned it in like the slimiest way, where they basically were just like, okay, we're not going to have an opening crawl, but we are going to have exactly the same thing. It's just not going to be a crawl. And it just like the inconsistency of it, that they established this thing with Rogue One, that like that's how the anthology is going to work. And then they just like cowardly, they didn't even have the balls to just have an opening crawl. They were like, oh, we'll have text telling people the situation on this planet, and in the universe at this point. But we'll just have it like appear as like a slideshow format.
Yeah, I get why.
And it angered me. I like how Han just happens to be the kind of trooper where people can see their faces. Like for some reason, it's never. We've seen lots and lots of Empire people fighting things. You can never see their faces. I don't know why you can see Han's face. This is my question 1. Is it really best for pirates to attack other pirates? Woody Harrelson's like, oh, these are pirates. They're going to attack us. They're like, well, surely, there'd be like a deal where they'd be like, there's plenty of other stuff going around. It just seems like it's not a very good strategy to be like, especially seeing as pirates probably pretty brutal. I don't know. I just thought that was a weird plan.
Well, I'd say maybe it's
modus operandi.
Getting rid of the competition, and they can do all the hard work for you. Unless they have an agreement, which they obviously didn't. Yeah. But yeah,
I don't know. Well, it's a bit like
I don't think
when
it's a
the
nitpick,
Joker.
basically. I don't think it's a nitpick.
Yeah, it was a question, so yeah, you can. Yeah, so you could be the arbiter of that. This one, I'm actually surprised you didn't get because I thought this one was right up your alley. To the extent I was almost not going to put it because I was so sure you'd get it because you love this kind of thing.
All right.
The coincidence of Emilia Clarke happening to be at the Tower place.
Oh, that was going in the plot. That wasn't a nitpick.
Oh, okay, because it's such a big
yes.
one. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I was going to say small galaxy. Especially as like usually you go, oh, it's the Force, it's fine, but nobody's Force sensitive in this. So. This one's a really technical one, but I love it. So Lando's like, we're going ship for ship, but if they're going ship for ship, then Han should take all his money off the table because they're going ship for ship, so his money should be on the table. Idiot.
Good point.
Why would they at the mining thing? Why would they have a remote a remote controlled thing that unlocks every single lock. Because you'd think like that basically, I mean, all she had to do was like, well, I don't know if it's she, I can't remember who it was who did it. I think it was actually one of the people she told to go do the thing. Just presses a button and it like releases everybody at the mining thing. Yeah, and it's like, well, do you really want to say you just press a button and everyone immediately gets released? I think in a way, manual locks probably have their utility. And you think like, surely there could be like viruses and stuff.
It really helps the screenwriter.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you think like because I almost think if they're going to do that, they should have had like a more intelligent moment of like, okay, we're gonna upload a virus to the place, and then there's going to be a slave rebellion, and then we're just going to walk in. Instead, it almost seems like, despite this obviously exploitable weakness of there just being one place where all the slaves get released, that literally just happens by accident, pretty much. Like some guys just like, oh, I'll do this anyway. So okay, this is a weird one, and maybe I was like being stupid about this, but I don't really understand. They met like such a comically large number of threats in really quick succession when they were doing the castle run that it just like I found it ridiculous because like, okay, first of all they meet the Empire, fine, and then obviously they turn into like the gravity well, I think it was called, and okay, yeah, fine, they turned into the gravity well to avoid the Empire, and then a giant squid monster starts chasing them, and then they escape from that, and then there's these walls closing in on them, and I'm like, why? Who invented this weird space place where you just like suddenly loads? It's like an obstacle course. It's crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
Finally, actually no, I don't know. This one's not good. Actually, it was contradicted by something else. So there we go. That's all of it.
All right. Okay, so we're all good. So now, before we get into the plot, Michael, I think we should get into the background of this movie because, like Rogue One, this had its difficulties in production. Obviously, we mentioned before how this was the most expensive films of all, one of the most expensive films of all time, and that is because of reshoots. Well, I assume it's because of reshoots. Ron Howard came in to direct 70% of the movie, and the other 30% was directed by two gentlemen known as Lord and Miller, who were fired because of creative differences with Lucasfilm. And so, yeah, Howard was then hired as the replacement. So, yeah, I think overall this movie, I think you can tell. I think you can tell because there are some scenes, and we'll get into it, where I'm just thinking, well, that's the thing, there's not some scenes, there are some scenes missing where I think, surely there should have been a scene here that would have made sense for the plot, for just how movies normally work. I've watched a bunch of movies in my time, and there are some scenes where I'm like, well, they missed out something there. They just skipped to a whole other place, and I'm very surprised that happened. And so I have to assume that is because of these reshoots. So I just want to give you a bit of background on all of this. It was reported that the directors, Lord and Miller, were fired after Kennedy, that's Kathleen Kennedy, and Lawrence Kasdan, disagreed with their shooting style. Lord and Miller believed they were hired to make a comedy film, and obviously if you watch this movie, that is definitely not the case. While Lucasfilm was looking for the duo only to add a comedic touch. Lucasfilm also felt the directors were encouraging too much improvisation from the actors, which was believed to be shifting the story off course from Kasdan's script. To appease Kasdan, who wasn't happy with scenes not being filmed word for word, Lord and Miller shot several takes exactly as written, then shot additional takes. Lord and Miller refused to compromise on certain scenes, such as filming a scene from fewer angles than Lucasfilm expected, thereby reducing the options available in editing. The duo were also unhappy when Kasdan was brought to the London set, feeling he became a shadow director. So all of that contributed to just, it seems like it was an absolute mess. Like when you don't have the director on board with the person who wrote the movie, and then you've got Kathleen Kennedy from the studio breathing down your neck as well, saying, no, you've got to do this, you can't do that. It just must have been absolutely awful to work on. And so maybe considering how, well, this movie got like 70%, I think, on Rotten Tomatoes. Bad audience score, but yeah, it was okay received by the critics. And again, it's not the worst movie ever. I think maybe we're looking back on this and thinking, considering how troubled the production was, it wasn't as bad, perhaps, as it could have been. What do you think?
Yeah, it's not like, I mean, it's no Justice League in terms of like reshoots being cripplingly obvious.
It's not obvious.
I think, no. There were moments where, like I say, like I was thinking, you definitely can tell that it's the structure's a bit off in terms of like you say, scenes being missing. But and overall, I think, I said, I don't know if people necessarily. I think it's probably true that you could say, people might go a bit easy on it. Well, for a film with so many, such a fraught production process, it's okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess maybe that's kind of true if you're an idiot. Am I right?
Wow. Okay. So anyway, I think now we should get into the plot now, Michael. The plot of Solo: Star Wars Story. So I'll just give you the background on this. So from Wikipedia, it is really this simple. The film explores the early adventures of Han Solo and Chewbacca, who join a heist within the criminal underworld 10 years prior to the events of A New Hope. So, as you could see from that Wikipedia, entry in the plot, it doesn't actually say anything that they do or or anything that they do that's significant. It is literally a film where the plot is like, okay, we got to get this thing to get the next thing to get that thing, and I think honestly that's fine. But when the movie is meant to be centered around Han Solo, I don't think you should have a movie which is like one challenge after the other. That's what they need to overcome. We need to get the coaxium or something. And I think I would have really liked it if they had focused more on Han's character. And this movie, I was expecting before I watched it, this is going to be a sort of character study, and it really isn't a character study. Like, I don't know if you expected that, but
it's more like a Richter study, because they thought about doing a character study and went
Yeah, it's just more of like an origin story for all the stuff in the original trilogy that is associated with Han, and that to me, it just seems more than anything pretty pointless. I mean, if you're going to make a Han Solo movie, then surely you'd make it about him, the actual character. And there's a bit of character stuff, like 1 hour and 40 minutes into the movie, which we'll get into later on, but that was really surprising to me about the overall plot. It was, got to do this thing, to do that thing, to do the next thing. Just, again, constantly having obstacles, and we got to somehow figure a way to get around them or through them or whatever. Nothing really.
We can't go over it. We can't go under it. We got to go through it.
Yeah, there's so many instances of that happening, and that's just really surprising to me when I thought there would be a focus on Han's character, and there isn't. So that was anything to say on the overall plot?
I mean, it does feel very. I guess in a way, it's almost. I guess one thing I maybe liked, even though I'm only just realizing I kind of liked it, is that it is like split into very easily identifiable kind of points, like acts. But then, having said that, that also makes it feel kind of episodic in a weird way, because obviously you get like him and Kira on the planet, him as an Imperial person, he and Woody Harrelson go on that heist. Then obviously they meet what's his face. So you can kind of you can very easily like identify like the different times that something happens. Like I can tell you, which is kind of impressive in a way, considering how disengaged I was during this film. It's kind of impressive. I can pretty much tell you the sequence of events like very reliably. But I think the problem is, like I say, the problem is it feels like nothing really exciting happens in any place. It almost feels like they go to those places just for the thing to happen, and then the thing stops happening.
Yeah,
and then they go, well, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's like a video game structure. Yeah, it's like, okay, we've completed this level, now we're on to the next level, now we're on to the next one. And again,
having said that though, you know the Star Wars Lego games?
Yes.
I always think about this, because basically,
don't go on a massive tangent about Star Wars Lego.
But you get like these 6 missions per episode. And like it's, a pretty great way of working. So it's like, you got Phantom Menace. You just start off on the Naboo ship and you got to run around killing droids and stuff. But in this version, I don't really know what your 6 episodes could be. I think that's a serious flaw. You can have like, because like, what are you going to do for they go to see Lando? It's just like, there. Like there's so many scenes of people just kind of talking. So I don't know.
No, I disagree. I think there's a lot of scenes.
Sorry, yeah. But it's like, I guess the difference is, okay, and this is what I'd say. There's like some places they go to where people just talk, and there's other places they go to where they just have action, but it's almost like weirdly the two things feel kind of separate a lot of the time. Like, for example, they go to the Lando place and they just talk. Then they go to the mining place and they just have action. And then they go to the Paul Bettany place and they just talk. And then they go to the weird train track place and they just have action. It kind of seems like to me there's maybe a bit of a really clear delineation in terms of location, where like some places like it's like, oh, this is the action place, and I feel like in a way the problem is it almost makes both seem more boring because it kind of makes it feel like they go to these places just to have the action and they go to the other places to have like the conversations. It's like, can't I just do them?
I describe it as like, well, going off the video game thing, like a cutscene, and then you've got the actual video game stuff.
That's a really good comparison, actually.
Yeah.
Well done, Luke.
Oh, thanks.
You're so smart.
I know, right? You got the exposition before the action scene, so the characters in the video game, they understand what they have to do to accomplish the next task. And that is, and here's the thing: we're going to go through the plot now, and I was suggesting going through it chronologically, which is something we never really do. And that is that is because there's not like an overall plot. It's just like you go from one stage to the other. And you keep going to different places, completing different tasks, and then at the end of the movie ends. And that's why I think ultimately it's forgettable, it's not very exciting, because, there's nothing... There isn't a story that is going on, if you get what I mean. Yeah it's just...
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So, therefore, I guess, and obviously that, with this structure then, means it's hard for Han to have a... Well, you can still have, I guess, within this structure, you can still have a character study of Han without, like, an actual story going on. But they just sacrifice that. But we'll get into Han's character later on. Let's just go through the plot now, piece by piece, because that's the only thing we can really do, because that's just how it's structured. So let's go with the start of the movie first. I actually quite like the start. Him escaping that.
Yeah, I think I like the start too.
The mob boss caterpillar. It was a bit prequely, I think, that monster, but she's in it for like 2 minutes, so I'll allow it. It's fine. But yeah, I think the opening sequence was fine. It explained everything about Han and, where he was in his life, and basically the situation that his home planet, or I don't know if his home planet, but it must have been his home planet, the planet he was on, and how the Empire controlled it and all of that, and his relationship with his girlfriend, what's she called again? Kira, that's it.
Kira, yeah,
Kira. So I thought it was all going fine. I was like, this is a decent start, and then
but then he finds out that Kira actually has a notebook which he's been using, she's been using to kill people who she deems worthy of death.
That's a reference to Death Note, obviously, that very popular movie. But then they have the scene where he escapes First Order, sorry, not the First Order, the Empire, and to escape them, he signs up to become a pilot, doesn't he? A pilot, for the Empire. And the guard, it's not the guard really, it's the recruiting officer, says to him, well, what's your last name? What's your people? And Han says, well, it's I don't have one. I'm just Han. And so that guy then just says, Han Solo. And that's how he fucking gets his name. Like, it's so forced. I mean, I don't know if this would be better. I think it would be if Han just says, hey, I'm with nobody, I'm on my own, I'm solo. Just saying something casual like that. I think that may work better, and then he can say, and then the recruiting officer.
Although I think really what would work better is if like Solo was just his name, Especially saying, I mean, like, here's the thing: it would be like if you had a character called, Luke Mason, and you'd assume that their name's just Mason, but instead, like, it turned out actually when you watch the Luke Mason prequel series, that he's moving some bricks, and somebody walks up to him and says, "Hey, what's your surname?" And he says, "Hey, I'm just moving some bricks here," and somebody goes, "Oh, kind of like a Mason." He goes, "Yeah, I guess." He's like, "Oh, Luke Mason." That's basically it. Or like for me, actually, no, I can't say my actual surname. Well, I could, but I don't want to get beaten up or killed by Disney, so I won't. But let's suppose my name was Littlewood, Michael Littlewood, and somebody said, "Why are you standing so uncomfortably?" And I said, "Well, I've got a little wood, if I'm being honest with you." And they said, Michael Littlewood. That's basically, like, people have names that sound like they could mean things all the time. That's like a very common thing for people's names.
Yeah, but
I had a friend with the surname Butt.
Yeah.
Good thing they don't make a prequel about him.
Yeah, but I think maybe it's a bit too on the nose, perhaps, that, he's alone. I mean, that's the thing. His name originally, it's so dumb, because it's like, George Lucas was like, this is a character who's, he's alone a lot of the time. He's not really a part of anything. He's an outlaw, so what should his last name be? Solo. I mean, that's the thing, really.
Well, it would be like if Darth Sidious goes, "You have children. I'll call you after the Dutch word for father." That's how Darth Vader gets his name.
Yeah, what if Luke was, well, I guess his last name, Skywalker.
You will be a pilot. I'll call you Skywalker.
Well, that's the thing. Skywalker, it does kind of imply that he's hope. I guess someone that can provide hope because he's above.
He's aspiring to the sky.
Yeah, some bullshit like that. I don't know. So yeah, I guess George Lucas, it's his fault for being so literal with his surnames of his characters. You mentioned Darth Vader, Han Solo, and kind of Luke Skywalker as well. So yeah. They can all be. It can all be blamed on George Lucas. I think we can all agree on that. So yeah, you got anything else to say before we get on to the next scene?
No. Let's go.
So this is one of the scenes which was missed out, and I can't think it was because of a reshoot, and that is because originally, of course, we went through why Lord and Miller got fired. It was because of them adding too many comedic scenes to the movie, and the scene which was missing that I'm really surprised just was cut out shouldn't have really been a comedic scene. So I don't really get why it was cut or it just wasn't filmed. And this is the scene I'm talking about is a scene where Han struggles with becoming a soldier for the Empire, which I think, would have been nice. So he gets obviously kicked out. That's what he says right when he's on that planet. When he meets Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
He got kicked out because he said he thinks too much for himself or whatever. And that would be a good scene to build up his character and create a character arc. But obviously they didn't really decide to do that in this movie. And I was just like... Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I had to say, that scene, it made me think it was pretty stupid, though, because it's like, you know that, he should be kind of... I always get the impression with Han that he's kind of like a bit of a smart, practical person, the kind of person who would put their ideal secondary if it, benefited him. So, in other words, if hey, I've just got to, keep my head down and I'll... get a paycheck, because he enjoyed being in the Imperial Academy, I guess, because he wanted to be a pilot, but instead apparently he says, I thought to myself, you can get impression so Han was just some dickhead who couldn't keep his mouth shut.
How about that becomes part of his character arc?
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, that would be the character arc. He starts off kind of as somebody who is rambunctious in kind of almost like an idealistic way. He's like, hey man, I'm not going to let anyone tell me what to do because I'm I don't care about the Empire. I'm just going to bitch about them right to their face. And then maybe at the end he learns, actually, you know what, Han, you got to be more sly. You got to be more cash. You got to
exactly
play things as they lie.
He learns to play people. He learns to play the game. That could be his arc, and it could start off with him getting fired from the Imperial fleet or whatever because he's not good at taking orders, I guess, or he's just being a bit of a dick maybe, and not looking at the bigger picture, something like that. But I'm just surprised there wasn't that scene in this movie because it just cuts to him saying, "Oh yeah, I was kicked out." In the next scene, I was like, "Wait, what?" Surely that's something that would be quite important, to put in this movie about Han Solo. But again, they don't go down the character study path, so obviously it's not in there. I assume for that reason. So yeah, that is a shame that scene of him, getting kicked out of the Empire for speaking his mind, as he said, isn't in there. And then obviously he discovers Woody Harrelson. He discovers his wife. Hey, and here's the thing: I don't know why the wife. I don't know if they're married, but I'm just going to assume that's the case. The wife thinks that Chewbacca and Han Solo are two morons, as she calls them, because here's the thing: they managed to fucking escape Chewbacca. Well, Han Solo does that in the first place. She saw them being taken away and then they escape. And, Han worked out they were stealing stuff. That's what he called them out on. So then how does this... why do you think they're morons? I think they're pretty smart, if you'd ask me. I really didn't get that part as well. Maybe that should have been a nitpick.
No, I was going to say, I possibly, in some, I'm going to relate that to actually a bit when we talk about the characters, but I feel like it was just there because, it's like a thing people say.
It's
you got to
have
someone who doesn't believe it. You got to have somebody who doesn't believe in him, so he goes, hey, he's a moron.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to be that stupid,
Typical character who is skeptical of new characters joining this group because, they're there to prove them wrong or whatever.
Cliche.
Yeah, that cliche, but the thing is she dies, so she never actually...
that's what she gets.
Yeah, again, you don't doubt white men. That's your
exactly.
That's your lesson. You don't call them morons. Now, let's move on to the train sequence now. So obviously Han Solo meets up with Woody Harrelson and a bunch of other characters, and they go off trying to steal some cargo from a train in an old school Western move. I don't know why the Empire is using a train to carry stuff when they have spaceships. That is completely baffling to me.
Well, they're very environmentally conscious. It's sort of like how, sometimes if you don't want to destroy the planet, you travel somewhere via train instead of by plane, because you're a hero.
Yeah, I don't think it makes that much sense, considering I don't think the Empire would care that much about the environment, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Empire...
Well, Hitler was a vegetarian, so let's not forget that fascists can care about the environment.
Maybe the Empire have their own Greta Thunberg influencing things.
Yeah, well, she's a fascist too, am I right? A bloody eco-fascist.
Yes. So then you have... Okay. Another example of where I think there was a cutscene where there was this CGI alien who dies called Rio. Remember him?
Yes,
you do, yeah. So he said...
Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah, he gets shot, and then Han Solo takes over, flying the plane. Sorry, not the plane, the ship. And then nothing happens. He's just still flying it, and then the character Rio says to Han,
"You're a hell of a pilot.
You're a great
kid. You won't lie.
You're a great pilot, kid." Even though he was just literally flying in a straight line. So
it's like in the Empire Strikes Back where Han goes, "Don't worry, I know a few moves," and then he doesn't really do anything.
Yeah,
Star Wars loves people not being that impressive, but still being identified as a good pilot.
Yeah, I guess that
he should have tried spinning. That's a good trick.
Whoa, classic. Yeah, overall though, I think the train sequence, it was quite fun. I think it went on for a bit too long.
No, yeah, I actually did enjoy that, to be honest.
But it was fine. I didn't have any problems with it. And obviously, a couple of people die. Woody Harrelson survives with Han Solo and Chewbacca.
Now Woody Harrelson's Solo.
So then we get into the next scene where they have to meet Paul Bettany, who of course hired Woody Harrelson. And this is where we get your nitpick, which you said before on the nitpicks, which I think is too big for a nitpick because Emilia Clarke, you think of how big this galaxy is, so many characters, so many aliens, so many planets, and Emilia Clarke just happens to be working for the guy who's hired Woody Harrelson. And not just working for him, literally his right-hand woman. Mm. I mean, what are the odds, Michael? What are the fucking odds?
5 out of 7.
5 out of 7, wow. Okay. It's a bit lower than I thought.
Oh, sorry, Luke. Sorry to disappoint.
Yeah.
It's just as the official bookmaker of this podcast, I have to tell you the truth.
And I don't... Here's the thing. Just the odds are just incredibly massive. And Han doesn't even ask Emilia Clarke how the fuck she got here into this position.
I know, yeah.
He's just like, oh wow, I guess she's here. Well, that's lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of when we were at university, and like you're on a night out, in a club, and you recognise somebody, and he was in there, who you didn't go with, and you're like, hey, how you doing? And that was that. Yeah. And it's like, I think it's a bit of a different circumstances. Literally, the love of your life has turned up to this random place on a different planet several years later. I don't know. I'd be a bit more shocked about this. He does just seem rather, just not really shocked about it. And Emilia Clarke doesn't really act with much jubilation when she taps him on the shoulder.
Yeah,
she's just like,
oh, you.
Yeah, you see her expression when Han turns around. She's just like smiling normally. It's like, I mean, surely you should be a bit happier. I don't know. But yeah, I think overall, I was just really, like, I don't know if disappointing's the right word, just gobsmacked maybe, about how casual this massive sorry, what's the word I'm looking for, Michael? Unprecedented?
Serendipitous occurrence. Yeah, just... I can't believe it. Was serendipitous. That's what it was. It was most... I mean, I've seen some serendipitous occurrences in my life, but I think this really, truly takes the cake.
Because when somebody tapped Han on the shoulder, I was like, this is going to be Emilia Clarke, innit? It was the only character which makes sense. But then I was also thinking, it can't be her, because I literally saw her 10 minutes ago, and she was in a completely different planet with no connection to this Paul Bettany guy. So how the hell is she here? And yeah, apparently she is, so there you go.
I bet you feel like a tomfool.
Yeah, and so, okay, there's that out of the way. That insane coincidence. Maybe that's the word I was looking for before coincidence. I think it was. Yeah, that makes sense. I can't believe I forgot that word, Michael. Hey?
I know, yeah, it's your favourite word.
I know. So after that, they go into Paul Bettany's office, and the whole scene is just really weird. Like, the tone switches between serious music and then playful music when Woody Harrelson has to come up with something on the fly about how where to distill the material they're going to steal. And then after that, hopeful music comes in after Paul Bettany gives the green light for them to go on their mission. And I don't know, by the way, why Paul Bettany either doesn't think that since Han and Woody don't work for Crimson Dawn, as long as the Pikes, which the people are stealing from, don't figure it out, you'll be all right. Like, how does that not come into his mind? How does that have to be explained to him by Han Solo? So I didn't get that as well. So yeah, I just
Paul
thought
Bettany's an idiot. Should be called Paul Dummany.
Yeah, I just thought that scene was just really weird. And there's this thing where, like, Emilia Clarke's talking to Paul Bettany, and Emilia Clarke's saying to, him, unless, well, she's going to say unless something happens, and then Han just cuts in and goes, unless, and, like, smiles, and it's like, wait, why is he doing that? Why is he saying that?
Well, because he's, as a mansplainer,
oh, right.
He's man-interrupting her.
Yeah, but it doesn't make any sense for him to interrupt that conversation then, and I have to assume, again, that was a comedic moment in there somewhere that became de-comedified. Because obviously Disney wanted a change in tone. Like, I get the sense from the playful music with Woody Harrelson that this was meant to be like a funny scene overall, and the fact that Paul Bettany is like being deliberately stupid, and then Han brings him back and says, "No. If they don't know we work from Crimson Dawn, it'll be okay." It seems like with the comedic tone, that would have worked. That whole scene was originally meant to be comedic, and I think that's why it feels so weird, because obviously it's not at all. So
I think you're right.
Yeah, I that's the only thing I can assume, because I don't know if you're ever going to watch this movie again, Michael. But if you do, just like I
have to watch it again,
because the first time I watched this movie, I played back that scene because like there's just not something right about the scene. Something seems off. There's so many things that just are unnatural for like a serious scene where characters might die. So yeah, that's my conclusion.
No, it actually did feel really weird, like the fact that it was supposed to be like life or death, and it didn't feel like that at all.
Yeah,
it's just like when he was like, "Oh, if you fail, you'll all be in trouble," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, there's supposed to be like life or death there." It doesn't feel like that at all, but yeah, apparently there is. So.
Yeah, okay, and so then the rest of the movie. Now, okay, so here's the thing. I think after this point, and we enter a different phase of the movie, because you're basically setting up all the action that follows. I mean, obviously there's action beforehand, but that you've basically set up the main thrust of the plot now, and the rest of the movie doesn't really contain any more plot, and I haven't written a lot down after that, apart from the ending, obviously, because it's just literally, okay, we have to do this, to do this, to do that. What do they have to do after... what do they have to do first? First they have to steal... first they have to get the Millennium Falcon, right?
Oh yeah, from Lando.
Yeah.
Get the Millennium Falcon. Then they've got to get the coaxium.
Yes.
Then they've got to go to the coaxium refining place.
No. They got to first escape the Empire.
Oh, Kessel Run.
Yeah.
Do the Kessel Run to get it to the coaxium place in time.
And then
before
they have to escape that black hole thing as well.
Well, yeah, that's all kind of part of the same.
Yeah. But there's like little individual things that they have to do each time.
It's like watching Jason and the Argonauts.
Is it really?
Well, in a lot of a lot of Greek myths, basically it's like these guys on a boat and they sail to one island and something happens there, and then they sail to another island and something happens there. It's a good format. I like it.
Is that what happens in Hercules?
Okay. You know what, Luke? You had to pick the one exception to. Well, but even in Hercules, I mean, Hercules is slightly different. It's like, they've got the 12 labors. So Greek people, they love that. I mean, yeah, sure. Most of the time with Odysseus and Jason and the Argonauts, it was very island orientated. But I mean, Theseus, he goes to Crete.
Was Odysseus the one who had sex with his mom?
No, that's
Oedipus.
Oedipus, yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
Oedipus, his one's more of he's got a shorter story, although the Sphinx is in his story. It's something like he goes to, like, he gets kicked out of his kingdom, and then he has to go back to the kingdom, but on his way there, he meets the Sphinx, and the Sphinx tells him that riddle, the one that's like, in the morning, I walk on 4 legs. In the afternoon, I walk on 2 legs. In the evening, I walk on 3 legs. What am I?
You're a human.
Do you know, why, Luke?
Because you crawl, then you walk, and then you have a walking stick.
Yeah, so and that's where that riddle comes from. And then the Sphinx lets him pass, and then he goes, to his house and bangs his mum.
Wow, what a happy ending!
Love it.
Yeah, when Disney gonna remake that classic Greek tale?
Yeah, but they got to have those gospel choir singers. Yes, he's going to fuck his mom.
Okay.
Anyway,
right. So, basically, do you want to talk about the bits in between the first when Paul Bettany sends them on the way and the ending? Because again, there's no real plot there. They just
not really.
Do a bunch of
The only other thing. So this is like probably very close to the ending. I just want to say it's like funny to me that the fact that the rebel leader person is a woman is treated as like this big surprise, and it's like we've seen the other Star Wars films. Leia Organa is a general. It's not that surprising to have a leader be a woman.
Yeah, at first, okay, so this is the pirates who obviously are trying to basically
steal the coaxium.
Yeah, leech off the whatever they are. I guess what would you call Woody Harrelson? Just
a scand. No, what's the word I'm looking for? Scandal, not
Scandinavian. I don't know.
A bandit. That was the word.
I just fucking said
you already
bandit.
said that. No. That's not. No, it's not that. It's
a scoundrel.
A rapscallion. That's it.
A rapscallion.
I can't believe I forgot that. Rapscallion. It's so obvious.
What do you do? I'm a rapscallion. God. Now, on that, what's she called? I can't even fucking remember her name, man.
Just to make up a Star Wars name. Onkar Plot.
Infinite Jest. I feel it was something like that. I'm gonna look it up because it's annoying.
Infinite Vest.
Infinite Jest, I said.
Infinite Vest, I said. What about Infinite Arrest? Yeah, like when you get arrested and then you get a life sentence.
Okay, I'm looking up. It is Enfys. I feel like it was Enfys Ness. It wasn't just Enfys.
Oh yeah, Enfys Ness. Yeah, that was it. Enfys Ness.
That was it. It wasn't Infinite Jest. It was Enfys Nest.
Yeah, you're right.
There we go.
Infinite Jest.
So,
what is that Infinite? Is that like a show?
No, it's a book.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, I always.
No, go on. I was just.
I couldn't remember what it was.
I was just gonna say I haven't read it. I've just heard of like women complaining about it on Twitter because apparently that's a book that men read and men think they're really smart because it's their favorite book. That's the sense I got. I have no idea. I've never read it. But anyway,
okay.
So yeah, Infinite Jest is, as you said, actually not a man. She's a woman, and that is going to be a shock. But I thought, see, here's the thing: what the race of Woody Harrelson's wife is the same.
Yes.
So I thought that was going to be Woody Harrelson's daughter, because I thought, yeah, so that was their child. That's what I thought they were going for, and then.
We do love when people are related in our Star Wars films.
Yeah, because obviously his wife was black, this girl was black, so it was like... And she's young as well, so I was like, oh, that's what they're going for. Okay. Then she just walked past him and I'm like, oh, wait, that's not what they're going for. And I can only assume the shock was because she's so young.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's the case. Well, I'm thinking now, actually, maybe because of the cut scene, she appeared earlier on in the film.
I was thinking that too, yeah. Like maybe it's supposed to be a twist because she was there earlier.
And they had to cut it out.
And then she was gone.
And so the twist makes no sense and they just tried to...
Yeah. Maybe they wanted to make it less comedic, and seeing as she was making Infinite Jest, they thought it was inappropriate.
Great. Yeah, so maybe they just had to edit around it at the end. I don't know. You know what, it's fun trying to figure out what parts of movies that were edited and what parts were originally a different tone. I do like that. That is quite fun.
I like it too.
Yeah, it is fun.
No matter what, we'll always have that as something to do with our lives.
Yes. So now we get to the ending of the movie, and here's the thing: I watched the Red Letter Media review of Han Solo, and I don't know why Rich Evans really was
liked it.
Yeah, he liked it, and he was invested in the Emilia Clarke Han Solo story, which I wasn't.
What a dweeb!
I hate to...
No, yeah,
go on.
I was just agreeing. Like, you're right.
Yeah, I am right.
You're right, Luke.
I am right, and.
I'm validating
They
you.
also said that the ending was good. And I just found the ending kind of ridiculous because obviously double cross is a trope. It's not that exciting, but you know what? It works. But obviously at the end, like, you have a double cross.
Yeah, so it's my least favourite kind of... And we spoke about this when we spoke about Death Note, which is convenient that I happened to bring that up earlier. Because with Death Note, the end of the anime, this isn't the end of the actual film as much. With the end of the anime, literally the conclusion is like, I knew you knew I knew you knew I knew. Like, that's it. It's like I knew you'd do this, so I did this. Well, I knew you knew I did this, so I did this before you could do that. And like, literally, that's what it's like in this. And it's like, it's so ridiculous. Like I knew you'd betray me, so I did this. Well, I knew that you knew I'd betray you, so I did this. Well, I knew that you knew that I knew I'd betray you, so I did this. And it's like, shut up.
So I'm just going to go through it because I think it's fun to explain it. So initially, Han, Beck, no, it's not Beck, it's just Beckett. Han, Beckett, who's Woody Harrelson, and Emilia Clarke are going to cross Paul Bettany. But then Beckett double crosses Han and Emilia Clarke by revealing to him that they actually don't have the coaxium. But then it's revealed that Han knew that Beckett was going to double cross them, and so the coaxium is actually there. And then after that, Beckett then shoots everybody and double crosses Paul Bettany.
Yes.
Then Emilia Clarke double crosses Han by jumping in to stop Han killing Paul Bettany. And then she double crosses Paul Bettany by stabbing him. And then she it must be now a triple cross. She triple crosses Han and leaves Han without giving Han any money for the ship to go and see fucking Darth Maul, which is a real turn up for the books. Like, Darth Maul's alive and in this movie. So yeah, it's just so much, and I've explained it well, but just so much crossing. Yes, like you said before, the thing from Death Note. I knew you knew. I knew. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I knew. Like, you know what, Luke? I knew you didn't like this film, so I decided we review a different film. Well, I knew you knew I didn't like this film and wanted to review a different film, so I watched that different film. Well, I knew you knew it. That's basically it. That's what our podcast would be like if it was the end of Solo.
So yeah, double cross is fine and all. It's not the most exciting, but maybe even
that's the thing. Like, what annoys me about the double cross thing is like it's not a clever way to end a film.
No.
And that's what triggers me about it.
I mean,
like,
it's just
there are clever ways to end film. It's basically just being like, oh, this is clever. Basically, like, this person just knew all the information anyway, so that's the end.
Yeah, it's not even that surprising after fucking Woody Harrelson said throughout the movie, "Don't trust anyone. That's your problem." Yeah. So it's like it's not even that surprising, you know. And well, again double crossing, whatever, you know, it happens, but just the sheer amount of it, and that's why I didn't agree with the Red Letter Media guys. I just thought it was ridiculous. Like, many twists and turns in that final scene. I was just like, what the fuck is going on here, man? Honestly. So yeah, that's what I think of that.
No,
yeah, just an ending which could have just been decent. It could have been fine, but they decided to go all Death Note, as you pointed out, and you never go full Death Note.
No, you never do. I'm gonna make a film like that someday. It's just gonna be like there's gonna be like the whole film. The whole film's gonna be like these people show up, and then literally just the entirety of the film is gonna be like people explaining the lengths to which they've quintuple crossed each other.
Yeah, it's like an episode of Sherlock, you know, with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
It's just, I remember, those shows have
just
a lot
magically
of that.
knows everything.
Yeah, and doesn't just know everything. He knows that his enemy knows that he knows everything. So then he does something different. Just that kind of great stuff that we love to see. But anyway, Michael, that's it really for the plot. There's nothing else that happens. We've explained it all.
Wait, no. One other thing. I mean, when do you want to talk about this? Darth Maul.
Oh, well, let's talk about it now, I guess. Yeah, Darth Maul shows up.
Yeah, okay, because I was just thinking that's the big reveal. So obviously, we spoke. I mean, it's kind of fortuitous, serendipitous, you might say, that last week we reviewed The Phantom Menace, because of course one thing that people do say about Phantom Menace is that Darth Maul's kind of
he's cool,
a neat character. Yeah, he's cool. Like, you can't say he's a good character because he's not. He just isn't saying.
He's got more lightsabers than lines in The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I was going to say, the fact he doesn't speak much means he's not subjected to any of George Lucas's terrible dialogue.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, basically, he's cool. And obviously, he has a personal beef with Obi-Wan. And I think, obviously, the reason, I'm going to guess the reason why they reveal him here at the end of this film is to set up the potential for his conflict with Obi-Wan.
Yes.
Which makes sense. So basically, that's the reason why we see him.
He's in the Clone Wars too.
He's alive. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, because I know that a lot of people who enjoy the Star Wars TV, especially the Star Wars TV intended for little children who watch cartoon shows, are annoyed for basically...
and it's only little children who do that.
I know,
and if you're a teenager with, like, say, ginger hair and you do that, then you're just absolutely pathetic and you should reevaluate every aspect of your miserable life.
It is true. Anyway, so basically, in the Clone Wars series, it's of course revealed that Darth Maul and Obi-Wan. Well, Darth Maul is alive, and Obi-Wan and Darth Maul have fought many times. And I know that a lot of people who watched it, like I saw this video by this guy who watched a TV show. This is where all this comes from, and he was like, "Well, what's the point in this? Because we already know that Obi-Wan and Darth Maul have fought." And I kind of think like, I don't know, that's a bit. But then also apparently in Rebels, which of course is canon because it was established, basically Darth Maul is already dead in Rebels. Because he reappears in Rebels and dies, which basically means he was like, so what's the point? We already know he's going to die. But you know what? I think ultimately, believe it or not, there are some people who are never going to watch those baby shows for little children. So I think, you know what? I mean, all power to them. And ultimately, if they decide to make a kind of adult Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series or an Obi-Wan Kenobi film, and it has Darth Maul in it, I mean, good. I think that Ewan McGregor's a really good actor for playing Obi-Wan Kenobi, so I'm excited to see him and stuff. And I guess ultimately, he kind of does have a history with Darth Maul, even though in order to be invested in that history at all, you have to look past the fact that the Phantom Menace is garbage. But you know what? Still, fine. You know what? He looks cool, so well done. He looks different though, so whatever. He looks like he looks like he is a cartoon character when he appears. Like, I don't know, he's got a weird shaped face.
Yeah.
He didn't look like that in the Phantom Menace.
He seems older though, as well. Well, I guess it makes sense because this is filmed 20 years after, but he does just seem like kind of old and past it. I don't know.
No, you're right.
Anyway, I think we should now move on, Michael, from Darth Maul to the world building, and you wanted to talk about this.
Yes. Oh, yeah, of course I did. In fact, so basically, all I wanted to say is that the anthology films, as much as like we like to rag on them, they do have some of the more interesting like areas. Like I think the places we saw in Rogue One were pretty cool compared to like you look at like The Force Awakens and it's like, oh, well, there's desert planet, and then there's weird temple planet, and then there's Starkiller Base. So like that's all
I think
cancerous.
That's not really the case for Rogue One as much as this movie, because Rogue One it was literally all about the Empire and the Resistance. Yeah. With
Rogue One, they had like Scarif. Scarif was cool. We've never seen a tropical planet before. But in this case, like, I mean, you get kind of the idea of like there's these slums. I thought that was kind of interesting. You know, it's like this slum planet with like an industrial sector and like these grimy cars. And then that's it.
The Michigan of the galaxy.
Yeah, but I mean that's mainly where it ended. Like, let me see. Oh, actually, the only other thing I liked, I think I wish they would have gone further with this. Like the idea of the Empire just being kind of whatever. And in some ways, I think you could say this is a bad thing because the argument would be like, well, it invalidates the original trilogy if the Empire doesn't seem like that bad. But I like the idea of just kind of joining the Empire. It's a thing that you do.
I know. Well, totally. That would be the reality of it. But you still do, what I really like. You still do see the stormtroopers pushing people around. I thought that was a really nice touch.
I think that's what I say. Actually, it seems like kind of. I think maybe it was a bit too extreme in like the frequency of which it occurred. I wish that maybe they would have been more subtle with it. Like, I like the idea. One of the things that I love in principle about the anthology films, and it's something that I wish we saw more of in Rogue One, is like looking at the reality of living under a fascist government. Like one of the things that I was thinking about when I recently rewatched Rogue One.
Well, we don't need to watch a movie to figure that out now, do we, Michael?
I know. Yeah, but I wish they would have done like a kind of little B plot about like the stormtroopers, like just and what the stormtroopers like. Like you have like a scene where the stormtroopers are like talking about their life, and that was in Rogue One. But in this film, I just think like so like the fact that it's not necessarily, and that's where I think maybe it was a bit on the nose, like having, because literally like they push like 1 billion people around. The stormtroopers just like that should be their like campaign. Just like you like pushing people around. Just become a stormtrooper. You get to push. Everyone's doing it. Whereas I think maybe it would have been better if it's kind of like more subtle, like you sort of just get the impression that people aren't really free to speak, and like there's obviously you get that sign. It's like basically Starship Troopers. They should have made Starship, the film should have been Starship Troopers, but Han Solo, and because that Starship Troopers is probably the best portrayal of what it's like to live under a fascist government. So they should have done that, but I think at least they kind of got closer with like just showing how it's like that's because that's what it'd be like. You just have these soldiers walking around being jerks. And but it'll be something you just kind of accept. So you're like, well, shit, I guess I'll just go join the Waffen SS because I've got to get that bank.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll get a nice new Jewish house.
What?
Well, because like obviously if you're in the SS, then like when the Jews get kicked out of their house, you get to move into their house.
I see what you mean. Yes, okay. I get what. Yeah, obviously that's one of the perks of being a Nazi.
Well, obviously, I mean, one of the many perks.
Right. So yeah, I think the world building in general, I think it was good in this movie. I found it much better than Rogue One, as mentioned previously, because Rogue One was just focusing again on the battle between the Empire and the Rebellion, as it was at the time. This movie, by the way, I just want to say, it's a very dark movie in terms of the cinematography. Yeah, and that was pointed out when people who actually went to see it, maybe they turn up the brightness for the DVD or Blu-ray release. But yeah, I think obviously that's to represent the seedy underbelly of the Star Wars galaxy and universe. And I think, yeah, that's something they did. You really got a sense of how fucked living in this galaxy under the Empire must be, with obviously the stormtroopers just pushing people around. Then also, the slaves on that Kessel. That was the planet, right? Kessel.
Yes, Kessel. Yeah, it was. Yeah, Kessel was the planet, but also it was the run.
Yes, so it was the one. So
it's both.
Yeah, the slavery, just the gambling, just the what's that guy called, Fagin, aspect of the start of the movie with all the kids.
Yeah. In this life, one thing counts. In the bank, large amounts.
Yeah.
Remember that song? Oh, I can't wait until we review Oliver Twist.
Yeah, I can. Yeah,
it's coming so soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, any day now.
Just round the corner, our Oliver Twist review.
And so, yeah, I really did like that aspect. I thought, yeah, and that's the thing, that's why I do think there is hope for these anthology movies, or like I said before, I think that would be better if they were TV series, because the universe is just so vast, obviously, because it's a fucking galaxy, and there's so many aliens, and so many things that could be explored, and yeah, you can make some really interesting stories and go to interesting places, and that's what this movie did kind of do. So again, I think for the world building aspect, I give it credit for that. I thought it was one of its strongest points.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, so world building, it was interesting to just kind of see it.
Yeah.
But obviously, ultimately, world building, it doesn't substitute for good story and good characters.
Yes, good characters indeed, Michael. And one of those great characters was Han Solo. And here's the thing. Han, in this movie, we talked about it before, doesn't have a character arc, really. And I was thinking, you could have made it, he has the potential to be an amazing pilot and smuggler, but he keeps making mistakes, for instance. It could have been that. Yeah. It could have been that, or like we said before, he's too
rambunctious. Tomfoolish.
These are great words you're coming up with today. Yeah.
A real whippersnapper. Instead of, just being calmer and being, more sly and more cunning, it could have been like that. He's maybe too naive and doesn't understand what he's doing out there in the big wide world. But you could maybe have had him. So obviously, you know how like in the New Hope, Luke's kind of like, I want to go after the academy. I want to fight for things. And you can have he was really idealistic, and he never really got to. I mean, he did kind of, but he never got to do it in the way he wanted to, of joining the academy and I don't know, whatever else he wanted to do. So they could have Han maybe represent that. You could have Han actually. You know what? They could have done. Maybe they could have done this because it would have been too edgy. They could have had Han be a true believer in the Empire. Maybe, he comes from a shitty background and then he sees the Empire. He's like, oh, the Empire's brought order.
Yeah.
So I want to join. But I think they wouldn't have done that though, because it would have been, would have triggered the libs.
It wouldn't have worked though, because then, what's his character at the start of A New Hope? It isn't, wow, fascism is wrong. So I got to fight it. It's, who the fuck cares?
No, but basically he would kind of, so he would end the thing Benicio del Toro's character in that's what we need. We need a Benicio del Toro's character.
How do you get that list?
Prequel. But he'd be like, oh, you know what, man? Both sides, I can't be dealing with them. I tried believing in something before, and it was oh, maybe you could have a situation where.
So he's just been blackpilled.
Here's my thoughts. Okay, no. He joins the Empire. Okay, but then he meets some people who are against the Empire, maybe pirates who are they're against the Empire. But then, and he kind of starts to believe them. But then he finds out, actually, you know what? They're just as bad. They're they're sneaky. They're not really in it for idealistic reasons. They're just in it for self-centered reasons. And he comes to the conclusion that really everyone's just cynical like that. And that's his story arc. Or something else.
That's really good, actually. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I do try.
I do like that.
Pick me, Disney. I've got hoop dreams.
Yeah, I do like that, because I was worried he'd just be he's blackpilled and he's just oh, whatever.
Yeah.
That was have to be his arc. Yeah. It's oh, well.
He'll be blackpilled when he meets Lando. And by pill, I mean penis.
Right.
I mean Lando's
You write
penis.
that fanfiction. I mean, I was when you started off saying, well, he could have been a part of the Empire, and then obviously rejects the Empire.
To be honest, I didn't know where I was going at the start of it either.
No, well, I'll just explain, because I was thinking
I get you.
Yeah, okay, well, then at the start of New Hope, he would just be like, meh. So his message would be, well, I'm not going to fight fascism because it's just like, meh. You know, that's his attitude. It's just like, oh, I don't care about the fight, I just don't like it, which is kind of a bad message for your hero to be having, really, at the end of a movie. But then your take on it, he could feel like that, like, I want to fight fascism, and then because he joins these outlaws who actually do horrible things as well, and they just
you mean just like Jet from Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yeah, just like him, and they just like it. They just don't like the Empire because they just don't have power, and so then he just becomes disillusioned with everything. And that would be a legitimate reason to be like that. So that would be a nice arc. But again, would Disney do something like that? Probably not.
Especially after Walt Disney was an anti-Semite. They don't want to risk anyone thinking they're fascists.
Well, they probably wouldn't do that, because obviously this movie is like, it's just a fun movie where people are shooting and there's action, and Han Solo and his wacky crew go on a thrilling ride. Just a completely different movie to the one we just proposed just then. But that movie that we just proposed would be better. I just want to say, by the way, I say there's no character arc really with Han Solo. Like, they try to do this thing with Woody Harrelson, where Woody Harrelson...
So I need to talk about Woody Harrelson, though, because it makes no sense. Because you know how you were like, the woman thinks they're stupid. Literally, the first thing we see Woody Harrelson do, for a second he disagrees with Han Solo, but the first thing we see him do is like trust Han Solo and Chewie and be like, I'm going to bring him on board. And then when the wife is like, oh, these guys are idiots, he's like, you know what? No, I trust them. I have faith in them. I think they're going to do it. Like he seems to be vouching very earnestly for Han and Chewie. So it doesn't make sense that later on he's like, I never trust it. Like, it would have made so much more sense if, like, and I was thinking about this, it would have made so much more sense in my head if Woody Harrelson was was like the kind of guy who didn't trust anybody, and then his wife trusted people, and she was like, you know what, no, let's bring them on board, he seems good. And then his wife died, maybe in such a way that Woody blamed Han, and then Woody would be like, you know what, that I was right not to trust you because she died because she trusted you, so that just confirms how right I am. And then in that way it would be like, you could set it up so, I don't know, however he wants to change. I mean, I guess he doesn't really change because whatever. But here's the thing. He's like, then he later on, he's like, I don't trust anybody. And you're like, well, that's directly contradicted by how you treated Han and Chewie up to this point, which is with the greatest of confidence. Even after they like let you down in your view by like failing to carry that coaxium and like smash against the thing, you still were like, oh yeah, sure, come along, it's fine. Like if Woody Harrelson was as cynical as he's supposed to be, you think he'd just throw them under the bus and be like, this idiot ruined everything, so I shot him. I don't know. But then literally Han's like, you trusted, I can't remember the woman's name, Martha? Mayra?
Yeah,
what's his wife's name? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure it starts with an M. Maybe it's Mallory. And you're like, you trusted Mallory, and Woody Harrelson's like, I don't trust anyone, which is not a response to what Han said. It's just it's a direct contradiction of what he said. It just makes no sense. And then obviously, like you say, it completely makes the end really weird, because it's like, then like Han's like, oh, I shot him because he said not to trust people repeatedly and also actively betrayed me. It's very confused. So I don't know.
Well,
like you say, there is the semblance of a character arc there, but
you think, oh, he's learned his lesson because he's not trusting people, but he's literally just shooting somebody he was about to shoot him. I don't think that qualifies as a character arc. So that's
I'd shoot somebody who even wasn't trying to shoot me.
There's also they make another attempt at an arc, which is where something Emilia Clarke says, and this is an hour and 40 minutes in almost, by the way, and there's no mention of this up until that point. Is when Emilia Clarke says, you're actually the good guy, and Han Solo says, I'm not, but that's
I thought that came out
it just comes out of nowhere. That's not been a part of the whole story up to that point. There was no question of whether Han Solo's good, whether Han Solo's bad. That just wasn't relevant. They're just trying to do what they're trying to do. Like I just they try to make it out in the end, oh, he's actually good, but I don't know, that wasn't a question. It seemed to me that he was just being Han Solo.
Yeah, he was a pretty decent guy.
Not maybe pretty decent, just being out for himself. Like, he wasn't bad, he wasn't good. He was just being how you'd expect Han Solo to be. So that just really was just weird that they tried to do something with that. And overall, I'd say, just talking about the lack of character arc in this movie and the lack of a character study, it's not really a Solo movie ironically, because it ends up just feeling like a normal Star Wars movie in the Star Wars universe, focused on this specific story, this little story in this grand universe,
you're right,
with Han Solo just being the main character in this movie, and it not being actually a movie about him. Like they say, they pick up all his stuff from the original trilogy, but again, if you didn't see the original trilogy and you just saw this movie, you had no idea why the fucking gun was important, or why the holographic chess was important, or the fucking Kessel Run was so important, and,
This is the ship that made the Kessel Run in 14 parsecs.
Yeah.
12.
Yeah, right.
Plot time.
So yeah, overall just very, very disappointing.
You're a smuggler? Pot time.
Okay, so now I think we should...
I can't wait until we do Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
We should get into the other characters now, because we've spent quite a while, I think.
Yeah, so I feel like with Woody Harrelson, I feel like maybe because I had something to say about him, because I thought it was stupid, the whole Trust No One, but I feel like we should probably move on to him next. If you've got anything else to say about him, I think I've already said everything I wanted to say.
Yeah, I mean...
With my big rant.
Nothing on Woody Harrelson, nothing really on Amelia Clarke. Her relationship with Han it just doesn't seem to have a lot of chemistry. Either, which again, that's why I'm so surprised that Rich Evans was so invested in that story.
Well, you know what? I would have liked if Han Solo spent the entire film saying, "She's my queen, and I don't want it."
I don't want it. Yeah, great. It seems like
I like it if when Amelia Clarke decided to leave Han, it was because she heard some bells in the distance, and it reminded her of how much she hated the building.
It seems that Amelia Clarke's always in relationships where people are double crossing each other. She's being typecast.
She was in Terminator Genesis too. I don't know. There's probably some double crossing in that.
Yeah, probably.
I can't remember.
Anyway, so let's get on. I don't really have anything to say about any of the characters.
Yeah.
I mean, Lando's okay.
I wanted to say. I know I've already said this, but I just wanted to reiterate. I really think it was very obvious that the guy with multiple arms was a Rocket Raccoon ripoff. He sounded like Rocket Raccoon. Almost every line he said felt like it should have been said by Rocket Raccoon. And like for some reason, when he died, I immediately thought of when Rocket Raccoon he sees Groot die. And he's like, "Oh no, no!" Like he says that specific way. That's kind of exactly like I literally felt in my head like when I try and remember the scene of that guy dying, the multiple arm guy. I literally just remember Rocket Raccoon in my head, like being like, "You're right, kid. You were a pretty good pilot." And I literally just imagine his little Weasley, what a stupid thing to say, raccoony mouth just moving. He's Rocket Raccoon, so just everyone needs to know that.
Yeah. I guess so. So yeah, I think...
You guess so? No, Luke. He definitely is!
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't pick up on it, but I'm just like, yeah, I can see that. I mean, you feel very strongly about it, so I'm not even...
I do, yeah.
Add anything more.
You don't want to test me on this,
Lando,
Buster.
Donald Glover as Lando, he does a fine job. Again, it's a bit comedic, and maybe that was because of the original shoots. I don't know. Maybe Disney were like, yeah, Lando can be comedic. That works for his character. But yeah, I think it's fine. Like it's a weird. I don't remember Billy D. Williams in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi being as carefree as Lando seems to be in this movie.
Yeah,
like you've taken
good rhyme.
Yeah, you've taken like the obvious traits of Billy D. Williams in those movies, and you've just kind of extrapolated them. That's what Donald Glover seems to have done. You've just ratcheted it up to a level which it never was, but like I said, it's fine. I don't really mind. So now we get on to Michael, the comic relief character in this movie, which was very, very weird and very... I've never seen anything like this before. And... obviously you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, it was the droid who was called, so I get this right, L337, who was voiced by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, obviously famous for Fleabag and writing the new James Bond movie apparently. So yeah, that's who was behind the voice. And yeah, what did you think of L337, Michael?
I think it's funny that in two anthology films, the droid character has been both the worst and then the best and then the worst part of each film. Because obviously L2SO, whatever his name was the best part of Rogue One. It was like the only character who was interesting and entertaining. In this film, like they, I guess, did something. So they were like, let's give the droid, a personality like we did with L2SO, or whatever his name was. But it's such a weird... So the joke is, let's just say this, the joke is that the droid doesn't like being a slave...
seeing fellow droids enslaved.
Yeah. Doesn't like the fact that that droids aren't served or treated as second-class citizens, and is very cognizant of the fact that the droid is a second-class citizen and resents it. And this is really funny, Luke.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if they were creating this character, Lawrence Kasdan, I assume they came up with this, they would say, well, they were thinking, well, what if the droid acted like an oppressed person? Wouldn't that be hilarious? It was really obvious about it. And the thing is, in this universe, droids are actually sentient. They do actually have a mind. They do actually have I assume that is the case. I mean, obviously they're robots, but they are actually alive. And then you get into a whole debate of droids' rights, which is funny to think about. But also, like, if they're sentient, then yeah, they probably shouldn't be second-class citizens.
Yeah. I remember, actually, there was a guy who has since come out as a massive sexist because he said that Star Wars is bad because there's too many women in it. But back before then, he made a video on what he thought Episode 7 should be. This would be like in 2014, maybe early 2015. And one of the things he said, hey, droids should have equal rights in a society. And what he said is like, because then it would be funny to see like, somebody like C-3PO being kind of like a complete rambunctious, I like my may also on with that word, but like a complete like kind of have loads of swagger, because C-3PO, like, the implication would be his whole life he's been holding in all of his real feelings because he's technically been a slave, and now that droids have equal rights, C-3PO would be like, hey Han, why don't you bloody go do that yourself? And he was like, that'd be funny. And I was thinking, like, obviously it's a similar joke, but the thing is, it's better because in that context, the droids already have equal rights, and like that's something they like. That if they wanted to do a joke about droids having equal rights, they could do that. They could have like in episode 7, they could be like, oh yeah, droids have equal rights now, and you can have like C-3PO be like, Crichton at the end of the Crichton episode of Red Dwarf, but instead, it's like, yeah, the episode is like, yeah, the joke is they want equal rights, and they don't have equal rights. And
that's the thing, they aren't just like, they're not robots, they actually are sentient creatures. Because
that's the thing, the only thing you could say is like, oh, droids don't really mind being, because obviously you get the impression with C-3PO, he doesn't really mind being a slave. You get the impression with R2-D2, I mean, R2-D2 doesn't even
they're like programmed to be like that.
Yeah, so like they kind of almost enjoy it. Like Crichton.
Wow.
But we love Crichton. But yeah, in this, it's like, once you establish that there is a droid who's like, I don't like this, it bothers me, you're like, well, okay, in that case, clearly something's bad. They're not just designed to enjoy being slaves, actually they don't like it, so we should probably stop that.
It's just not a solo thing ever. It's
that too, yeah.
So no, I don't mean like this movie. So what I was referring to then, it's not just like it's not just her, it's just
sorry, I get you,
a unique droid. She says to the other droid, liberate your fellow droids or whatever. And then
the thing is, that's just while we're on that, that's such a weird line, the way it's delivered, because it sounds like she doesn't really care in that moment. She just says, go cause a revolution or whatever, as if like she doesn't care. And then later on she says, I found my calling, even though she's always been about like droid liberation. It's kind of just weird the way it's set up. Like, it almost seems like it would have made more sense if she was against, or she didn't care about it earlier, and then later on, when the revolution happened, to change. But instead, she's just like, oh, go cause a revolution or whatever, as if she doesn't really care. And then suddenly she's like, oh yeah, this is good. But yeah, so sorry,
I
wanted to interject. I found that really weird, the way that was like just phrased.
Yeah, but so the other droids acknowledge they are slaves then.
Yeah.
And then that brings up a whole load of other questions. And that's the thing, when because she is the comic relief character, you're kind of mocking her trying to free these slaves. But again, I really, if they are actually slaves, which this movie does imply that they are, because they are sentient, then I don't think that's the best thing to mock, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah, basically, let's be honest, Luke. This film, it's like a Song of the South in space.
Yeah, but it feels ridiculous.
Just want a scene of like the droid singing. Zippity-doo-dah.
Yeah, but it feels ridiculous to say these things about fucking droids. But like, if they, like I said, if they're sentient, like, well, where do you draw the line? And that is a question which, again, it's maybe it doesn't really work if you're playing it for laughs.
Yeah. I also think on this note, the decision to have the droid liberation activist be a woman, I think, was also a bit of an issue, because there's a stigma, I guess, against kind of feminists. And obviously having like your female character who like, oh, she's just always banging on about bloody equal rights and all that stuff, and like you've got this kind of chauvinist coded man of Lando who's like, like, oh, I wish I could shut her up. And you just almost get like this thought in your head of like a turn of the century anti-suffragette adverts, which are like, I wish those bloody suffragists would just shut their mouths. It's like, I wish I could just get her to shut up. So like, I mean, again, obviously it's never particularly gendered, the thing, but obviously, you know, there's an idea that women are you know, fighting for their rights, and that being dismissed by somebody like Lando, especially, like I say, is like written as like a ladies' man, like I guess you'd say maybe a chauvinist, but not necessarily chauvinist. But yeah, it's a bit off.
The fact that that she's so obnoxious about it kind of does imply that, and she's, like I said before, the comic relief. Like you're lampooning feminists by doing this, and then when she gets shot and just dies, which I did not expect to happen when it does, it's like, oh well, that's the end of her, I guess.
That was so weird that she just died.
Yeah, and it's like kind of like, okay, well, so is that meant to be a moment that the audience should cheer?
Yeah, I was
she's
so confused
fucking
by
annoying, or should we be sad about it? It was just like a really weird character, and I get, I mean, maybe...
But look, don't forget what happens after she dies. Her body gets permanently implanted in the ship, where she now has no agency apart from to just serve as a navigational computer.
She becomes the ultimate slave, yes.
Yeah, great.
The irony. Hey? Now, so maybe
of course, when Leia's a slave, it's hot.
Maybe we're thinking too deeply about this, but yeah, it was just... I heard about it before watching this movie, but just watching it was just very peculiar. And yeah, I'm not really sure what they were going for, to be honest. But so anyway, I think we should move on from that. The characters, I don't think there's much else to say about it.
Yeah.
And we'll get on to fan service now. And so in this movie, there is a lot of fan service, and Rogue One was marked for having a lot of fan service. And this movie, fan service, it almost seems to be the main point of the movie. Just like, oh, how did Han Solo meet Chewbacca? How did he get his gun? How did he get his jacket? How did he get the Millennium Falcon? Oh, look, they're playing holographic chess again. Oh, how did he meet Lando? How did he do the Kessel Run? How did he win the Falcon fair and square? How he even got his fucking name? They just explain all of it. And is that fan service? I don't know. Actually, thinking about it, it may just be... Well, let's just explain how Lando did all this. And I just find it funny, by the way, that all of Lando's character, all that makes him, well, apart from his actual, character, his actual personality, all the things that are associated with him in the original trilogy, he gets in like 2 days. Over the course of his life.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Basically, that's the thing that I always found weird about. Like, one of the things that I remember is I was like, oh, I like that he didn't win the ship there. I mean, it was still kind of stupid that they already had the ship introduced, but obviously, so he meets Lando, and if you remember your Empire Strikes Back, you will remember that he says that he won it in a card game. I don't know if he actually said card game. He said, I won that ship fair and square in Empire Strikes Back. And obviously, then he was like doing that, and I was thinking, oh, it was kind of clever of them not to have Han Solo win it there, at that moment. And it kind of was, but then obviously, like, at the end, he wins it anyway. So you see him win it, like, just a few moments afterwards. And obviously, like I say, we already get the Millennium Falcon being introduced. So it's just, that's it. I mean, it's just, everything. And it's kind of, it's also funny, like you say, literally everything that makes him Han Solo is introduced, except for the thing that actually makes a substantial difference to his character.
Yeah. Again, I don't know if it's fan service when fan service is the actual point of the movie. The point is to explain all of those things. So it's not just like, throwing some meat to the fans, like that's where you associate fan service as being. It's like, now the meat that we're throwing to the fans is the actual movie. That's what that is. And again, it goes to what I've said before. I'm going to say in my conclusion. It just makes the movie feel really pointless because all those things that I said, you don't need to know. Like, you can just look it up on Wikipedia if you need to. I don't really care about how he got the Falcon. And now he won it from Lando. That's all you need, really. There's not some interesting backstory. Oh, he won it in a game of gambling. Great.
Yeah,
that's fine.
And that's the thing, obviously, again, it just implies that, like, nothing happened to him between, like, because, again, I was thinking, like, it would make sense that, like, you would assume that when he won that ship off Lando, maybe they were already friends. But no, because in order for that to be the case, you wouldn't get to see him meet Lando and win the ship in the same film. And obviously, he needs to do that.
Yeah.
Or else it just wouldn't be a Star Wars film.
Yes, I guess so. Yes. So yeah, that's the fan service. Very weird. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say on this movie apart from the conclusion.
Let me just double check. No, it's fine. So yeah, nothing else. Oh, actually, no. There's one other thing I want to say.
Of course,
sorry. This is about the droid. I just realized I missed it, mostly because I didn't have it written down. I only talked about it while you were talking. I did like, ironically, the only thing that had nothing to do with the droid liberation thing, which was basically the joke about how she was like, obviously Lando's really attracted to me. I thought that was funny because like obviously a droid wouldn't be good at identifying somebody being attracted to them because droids don't do the whole emotion thing. So I'd be like. That was funny. I mean, it wasn't that funny, but it was like it was, I guess, compared to everything else going on with the droid, I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. That's probably what they should have had, the droid's thing be. That, like, the droid thinks Lando has a crush on her. And obviously that's funny because droids, don't really know these kind of things, because they're droids. So good joke. But yeah, that was it.
Yeah,
so
okay.
The end.
Yeah, good point. So now I think we should move on to the conclusion, Michael, and I'm going to conclude first.
Yep, that's fine.
So,
I wanted you to anyway.
Yeah, I'll be quite quick.
So I don't care, Luke. I wanted you to.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, I think at the end of the day, this isn't a very memorable movie, and I think it's just because it doesn't try to do anything like amazing. I mean, this movie just plays it so safe, which is ironic because of the character who it's based on is meant to be the exact opposite. Like it's so safe. It's just this is how we set up this movie. And then he does the job, and then it's over. And then there's no real character study. There's no. It's just, like I said, fan service. But the fan service is the point of it, and that's the thing. Like, if that is the point of the movie, just to explain how he got his gun and shit like that, like, then what was the point of making this Han Solo movie in the first place? When Disney were thinking of this, I mean, obviously they're thinking of money, but when like Kasdans were thinking of this, like. Is this what they thought about? Like, if I was given the opportunity to write like a Han Solo standalone movie, I would not make this. I'd want to make it like interesting. I want to make it like a character study, a movie that shows Han Solo's growth into the person he is in A New Hope, and that really isn't this. And I think this it might be the most pointless movie I've ever seen. Like, you don't need any. It's just an explanation of how he got his stuff, and you don't need that. Like, I don't care, like I said, how he got his gun. How did he complete the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs? Like, as someone who's a fan of Star Wars, I really don't care. And Rogue One, I think, is different to this movie because, in theory, Rogue One didn't have to be pointless. You could follow new, interesting characters. It could have been an exciting story. So, yeah, that's where I draw the line between this Rogue One standalone and the Han Solo standalone, or the Han Solo standalone movie that did, in fact, come to fruition, which was this movie, of course. And yeah, at the end of the day, there's nothing exciting about this movie. It's very forgettable. And I don't know if it's worse than The Last Jedi, but it's certainly around the same in terms of how good it is. What did I give The Last Jedi? I'm just having a look here. The Last Jedi, I gave Michael a 4.5 out of 10. 4.5 out of 10. So I think it's around there. And ultimately, I think overall... Okay, I'll just judge the movie then. And I'll put it as a 5. I'll bump it up 1. But again, I think, just because of the pointlessness of it, you could say it's worse. But just as a movie, as like however long it was, like 2 hours, it's a 5 out of 10 movie. So there you go.
Yeah, I think that's reasonably fair. So
it should never have been made. Should never have been made. But yeah, 5 out of 10.
I think we'll probably rank it lower than you. But what I will say first of all, I actually was thinking about this, like something I didn't say about the Phantom Menace. I just wanted to say this now because I was thinking about it as I was watching this film. I was not bored while watching the Phantom Menace, which is weird because even though the Phantom Menace is like boring, what I find delightful.
I wasn't
about
boring because I was trying to figure out what was going on. And
see,
how bad
for
it was.
me, like with the Phantom Menace, I think like what I like about it is like there's so little happening that you kind of feel like it doesn't demand that much of you. So even though nothing like the Phantom Menace is like being asleep. In that, like, you wouldn't say, obviously, when you're asleep, you're doing nothing for like 8 hours, but because nothing's really being demanded of you, you're like, this is fine. And that's how I feel about the Phantom Menace. Like, there's so little happening that it's almost like it's not boring because you don't really have to engage your brain. You can just sit there and, like, during the boring speaking scenes, you can just go, oh, no, nothing. You know, my mind's off. I'm fine. With this film, it's kind of like it's worse because there are loads of things happening all the time, but none of it matters. So it's like it's forcing you to engage your brain by actually like looking at the things that are happening and like realizing, oh look, he's getting his boss done. Oh, he's won the thing. Oh wait, he bet loads, but now oh look, there's it's closing on them. Oh, this guy betrayed this guy. Oh look, that person's a woman. Like there's so many things happening, but none of it matters. Which in a way, it offends me more than the Phantom Menace. Now, I'm not going to say that this is as bad as the Phantom Menace, but I will say it's worse than The Last Jedi, but it's better than Grease, because I remember finding Grease really boring. So, and that actually puts it at a 3, but that's because my rating's just, I've got way more low ones, so it's a 3, but it's around Grease, it's around The Last Jedi, it's around Mamma Mia, it's around Man of Steel, so like that kind of area.
All right.
Good.
Yeah, I think what you said is right. If this movie like offends me more than like The Last Jedi or The Phantom Menace or is any other Star Wars movie, but it's not a worse movie. So.
Yeah, I think that's
so. That's why I have to bump it over above. So I think just judging on the movie, which is guess what you're meant to do, it's just a 5 out of 10.
Yeah. So I have put it above the Phantom Menace, but because even though if you would like say which one do you want to watch, Phantom Menace or Han Solo, I would pick Phantom Menace every single time because with Phantom Menace I can just kind of shut off my brain. With this, I feel like like I said, I'm just like for some reason I can't help but pay attention, but I'm also incredibly uninvested in everything that's happening. Like if this film was on, if like Phantom Menace was on, I would like stare at it mindlessly. Whereas if this was on, I would look at my phone.
Okay.
If it's like it was on TV, I was just sat there, I'd be like checking my phone so much, and I was.
Okay, right. No. So anyway, we're just going to go through some receipts now. Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. Sorry, it was Jumanji: The Next Level. Actually, was the movie that came out. You predicted 60.
I hope I won this one because I know that I have won TROS.
65% you predicted, I predicted 59. It's actually 69. So, the movie did slightly better than we both expected, but still came down quite a bit from the first one. So you get that point. And then let's get on to Star Wars Episode 9. We might as well already do it because we normally wait a week after it's released, but because, we talked about it in the cold intro, we already know. And I'll just check what it is exactly right now, Michael. Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Its Rotten Tomato score is 57%.
It's gone down.
57%.
The lowest it hit was like 52, I think.
Wow, Jesus Christ. 57. Have you seen that video on Twitter, by the way, of the announcement of the Rotten Tomato score of Star Wars? It's like really, you got the optimistic Star Wars music in the background, loads of action, and then it just goes... and then just a splat 58%, which I just found really funny. It's a really good video, but so here's the thing.
Was it on the Rotten Tomatoes official account?
The official account. Oh, cool. On Twitter. So 269 reviews, 57%. So I doubt that's changing anytime soon. So that means I'm going to pick up that point. I thought 84 because again I was just holding this movie.
Well, that's the thing. You wanted to go for 89. Because I forced you to go to... No, I thought you said you wanted to be 89, and then I forced you to go lower.
Oh, did I?
Because I thought I picked 89. Yeah, because I remember like it was something like I said... Because I said whatever The Force Awakens got, I was going to go full below it. And The Force Awakens got 93. So I was like, I'll get 89. And I swear you were like, I wanted to do 89. But since you got 89, I'll go for 85. Oh, wow. I felt like that was what
all right, okay.
84,
well, I'm not sure that's the... No, I mean...
maybe. Well,
who cares?
We'll trust I'm lying. How about that?
Who cares? Because I won, and that's...
It's just... It makes me so happy to see bloody Disney Star Wars with like that little green splat next to it, just because... It's like, I think it's just because...
This is their reward.
It's so...
Or it's not reward. This is their punishment for their incompetence over the last 3 movies and their incompetence over Han Solo. Because that's the thing. Han Solo got 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, but, its audience score was actually lower than its critical score. Its audience score was like 63%.
Yeah, they usually have that, That's the thing, because like...
it goes,
For years, it's been like generally perceived that Disney have been cocking us up, but... the score has not been reflecting.
Yes.
Like, despite the fact they have been cocking up, they've still got these reds and these, red tomatoes with the little yellow halo around it. And finally, they actually have that big green thing there, which I think, and the thing is, I hope that this will go down as like the legacy for the entire trilogy, just so that people will remember that. Because that's the thing, like, if the last episode is crap, that's it. Like, because for example, Revenge of the Sith, the last episode, sorry, the prequel trilogy, the last episode was the best, and in some ways, I think that's why people like the prequel trilogy, because even though like it's overall bad, they go, well, you know what? At least it ends on a high point. At least like there's some, obviously
it gets
prequel
better.
trilogy. Sorry, Revenge of the Sith is not good, but they go, well, at least it like ends on a point where it's like good. And obviously with Return of the Jedi, that's obviously the worst of the original three. Be like, well, you know what? All the films are pretty decent. There's certainly nothing wrong with Return of the Jedi. And then you get this, and it's just like, well, and again, like I say, just the fundamental point is that everybody who liked The Last Jedi is going to hate this, because as far as I can tell, literally almost everything it does is like, because basically.
Well, let's not get into it. But
yeah. I was going to say, but literally just undoes it all. So yeah, idiots.
I think saying that for me, seeing that 57% on Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker, it's cathartic. Seeing that
it's Christmas came early.
Christmas has come early because, again, like you say, it's Disney has not been called out for the bad movies it's been producing. Like we just did Solo, Star Wars Story. Like audiences thought it was worse than critics, which is just incredible. That never really happens, and you could see the gross, like only 400 million for a fucking Star Wars movie. And like we said, we didn't think The Last Jedi was good at all. We thought it was a bad movie. We thought The Force Awakens was overrated. We thought it was average, and people were like, what's his Rotten Tomatoes score? Like 93%. And Rogue One we thought was really shit, and it was really well received by the audience and by the critics as well to a certain extent. It was like in the 80s in terms of its score. And so to finally see 57%, it's like, finally the critics have caught up that these movies
finally everybody's as miserable as us.
Yes, finally everybody's as miserable as us.
Just what we wanted.
It could just be that this movie is absolutely terrible, like Phantom Menace level terrible, and therefore
I'm so ready. I'm so excited.
And therefore we're not even prepared. Like, this isn't just the critics are finally caught on, this is genuinely awful. That could be the case. I don't think it will, but maybe, I don't know. I'm looking forward to reviewing it nevertheless. So that is it. We have been selecting and reflecting on Solo, Star Wars Story. What are we doing next week, Michael?
We are doing, well, a film which I think is going to certainly be better than The Rise of Skywalker. We're going to be looking at Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas.
I can't wait for that. I cannot wait for that. Yeah, obviously,
I'm excited.
For Christmas. So yes, thank you for listening. We've been selecting and reflecting on Solo, Star Wars Story because of the release of the new Star Wars movie, Rise of Skywalker. Join us next week for Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas. Have you been Michael?
I've been Michael.
And I've been Luke. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye.